Hello everyone, and welcome to my latest video continuing to show my US and Canadian Beatles albums. So today we start with the Beatles' second album. Now, out of the US albums, this is probably one of my favourites. I do really like the track listing for this album. So this is an original mono pressing. Here's the back of the cover. And here's the nice original blue advertising in a sleeve. In nice condition, this one actually. And here's the nice rainbow capital label. I believe this is an East Coast pressing. And what the distinguishing feature about this copy, which tells you it's a first pressing, is that if you look on the side 2 label, there are no song times after Long Tall Sally and I Call Your Name, but as you can see, it tells you the running time for the rest of the tracks. So Please Mr. Postman has 2:34 and 2:04 and 2:19, and if you look on side 1, you can see they all have running times on there as well. However, first 2 tracks on side 2 don't. And the next copy of the Beatles' second album I've got to show is a stereo copy, also from 1964. Again, this copy seems pretty nice. I like that it advertises their first album down there as well, Meet the Beatles. This album just seems to finish off the tracks from With the Beatles and has a few singles and B-sides on there. It's got She Loves You in the B-side, and it's got 2 of the tracks from the Long Tall Sally EP. And this copy comes with a darker blue advertising sleeve. It's got a very similar design to the light blue one. Now, this is a West Coast copy, as you can see by the thin text on the stereo. And I believe this is also an original copy, because there are no running times for Long Tall Sally or I Call Your Name on this copy either. But there are on the other tracks, of course. And if you look down below there where the light is, you can see the star, which also tells you that it's a West Coast pressing. Now, my third and final copy, the Beatles' second album, came out in about 1971, I believe. And this is the version with the Gold Record Award logo on the front there. And this is on the Apple label. And this is the version which has Manufactured by Apple Records Inc. at the bottom of the label there. There's side 2. And the next album is the Beatles soundtrack for A Hard Day's Night. And this was released on United Artists in 1964 rather than Capitol. Obviously United Artists were the people who made the film. And the cover and the album itself, in fact, differs greatly from the UK version of A Hard Day's Night, because this just focuses on things that actually appeared in the film and pieces of instrumental music rather than songs plus new material just for the album, which would be all the songs that featured on side 2 of the UK release. So this first copy is an original mono pressing. Here's the back of the cover. I think this is quite an interesting version of A Hard Day's Night, because obviously on the UK release you don't get all these bits of instrumental music, so I think it is quite interesting to hear this version of the album. Now, something interesting to point out, on early covers, and get to focus, on early covers it says all songs published by Macklin Music Inc. and Unart Music Co. except This Boy. Now, on a slightly later version of the mono cover, it says except This Boy and I'll Cry Instead. So early covers, it just says except This Boy. Now I don't have an original inner sleeve for this copy, so I'll just jump straight to the vinyl. So this is a nice United Artists label. I like the coloured circles at the top there. And side 2. High fidelity. Okay, so the next copy I've got to show is a stereo pressing from about 1964, I think. However, this one is slightly later, so it's not quite the very first stereo issue, and I'll show you why. It's just because on the back of the cover, if you look at the text here, it says, "Accept this boy and I cry instead." So the very early covers would just say "Accept this boy," but this one has "I cry instead" as well. But it is still an early stereo issue. And I've noticed something different about the back of the stereo cover as well. It's got the information at the top here, rather than at the bottom where it is on the mono issues. So it says stereo up there, and it would say mono at the bottom of the sleeve on obviously the mono issue. And it has the stereo band across the top there. And here's the stereo label. As you can see, it now says High Fidelity Stereo, and it's got UAS rather than UAL, which was the mono catalogue number. And there's side 2. Now this next copy is a Canadian copy, so it's a Canadian mono copy. And it is very similar to the USA issue, however there are one or two subtle differences. Firstly, here's the back of the sleeve. Now it looks the same as the USA mono issue, except it's got a little black box in the top right corner which says "Manufactured and distributed in Canada by the Compo Company Limited," and they made this album for Canada. And this has a different United Artists label. Rather than having coloured dots, it's got just black and silver, and the rim text goes all the way around rather than just having a little bit here and there. There's no groove in the label like the American ones had, so quite a different United Artists label. It actually looks more similar to the UK United Artists label that was operating at this time, although obviously A Hard Day's Night wasn't pressed on United Artists in the UK. And here is an original stereo Canadian copy. Again, very similar to the USA issue, except of course with the black box in the top right hand corner. And the label is identical to the mono one, except of course for the stereo designation and the different catalogue number, UAS, rather than UAL. I forgot to mention actually, you can get this album in Canada on 3 different coloured labels for the monos, and that's blue, red and black obviously. And the next album is Something New, which basically just features all of the rest of the tracks from the UK issue of A Hard Day's Night, and the last 2 songs from the Long Tall Sally EP, as well as, which I think is a nice added bonus, the German version of I Wanna Hold Your Hand. So pretty good album this. And I also love the cover design for this as well. I think it looks really nice. So this is a first mono pressing. So here's the back of the album. Nothing particularly special there, but there it is anyway. There's the track listing. And here's the label. I believe this to be an East Coast pressing. Now, an interesting thing to note about this version of the album is that on the German track here, the name Nicholas is spelt without the H, and obviously it normally is spelt with the H, but this version doesn't have a H in it, and that is actually right for this man's name, because his name doesn't include the H, but on the very early versions it's misspelt with the usual spelling of Nicholas, which is Nicho. So this is a slightly later issue with the corrected spelling. And here's the next copy of something new. And this is a Canadian copy. And this comes with a nice inner sleeve there. And here's the colour band label. As you can see, it says Canada in the rim text rather than the USA. And this has a big groove around it, as you can see. And I think that's because this is a RCA pressing. Because I know Canada did have some records printed by RCA. Now here is a Beatles interview album. It's actually a double album called The Beatles Story, released in 1964 as well. And originally I believe this was only released in mono. Here's the back of the cover. And here's the gatefold sleeve. Right. Here's the gatefold on one side. Tells you what's on each side there. Some nice pictures. And a big picture on the left. And this copy of the album comes with both the original blue advertising sleeves, so that's nice. Now I know in America they did this thing where they had side 1 and side 4 on one record, and then they had side 2 and side 3 on the other record. And you can get a very rare 60s version of this where it does have sides 1 and 2 on one record and sides 3 and 4 on the other, but I've never seen one of those personally. So this is kind of the standard version of it. And this is a good interview album. I would recommend listening to it if you haven't already. And finally, I've got another copy of The Beatles Story, released in 1971. And this version is on Apple, and it's in stereo too. And this still sticks with the side 1, side 4 and side 2 and side 3 system. And there's side 2 and side 3. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time.